just briefly explain your policy for ending the war in Iraq successfully.
Good question.
If you could do that, that'd be all right.
We have passed out papers. I don't know if we had enough for the entire group. The Congress is generally the most powerful in the not generally, is the most powerful institution in a constitution. The second most powerful is the executive. It's an interesting development of history that we've now come to an imperial presidency and the Congress is substantially weakened. That was not the case when we had Lyndon Johnson, who was the leader, and Sam Rayburn in the House, but it is the case right now. And so the problem is the Congress feels, the leadership feels they have a mandate from the American people to go ahead and end the war. Well, they do have that mandate, and but are they exercising that mandate? Well, they made some very serious mistakes in my mind. They started out with the idea that they think, and I think this is to accommodate the views of the American people, they think that they can negotiate with George Bush on this subject. I don't think it's possible. George Bush has a different agenda than they would possibly have. So we started in January, and the only two things that we've done thus far is we've had a non-binding resolution that you could drive a Mack truck through it because it was non-binding, but if it were binding, it still left the president to be able to declare any kind of an emergency that would upset the process of it. Okay. Secondly, now, the only way to use the power of the Congress is to pass a law. I've put forth a withdrawal act. It's different than the withdrawal acts that they are playing with, and it defunds at the same time, and it repeals the earlier resolution. But what's different about it is that there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's very clear you get out. Now, that's something the American people can understand and react upon. The problem is the reaction time that's needed for them to do something. And so what this sets up is a confrontation between the Congress and the executive. And of course, this law has some very unusual penalties. 5 years in jail because it's a felony without the likelihood of parole, and you also have $1 million fine. And it would apply to the President, the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of the Treasury. Now, how do we get this law passed? It would be to get any law passed that George Bush is opposed to. First thing, you introduce it. You start it in the Senate or in the House, get the votes to pass it in the House, and it goes to the Senate. Now, the Senate's going to filibuster it. Well, there's nothing wrong with filibuster. I've done a lot of them. And so they filibuster. It means you got to get tough. So that means that the leader has got to say, okay, these people want to filibuster. Let's have a vote on cloture on Monday at noon, on Tuesday at noon, and Wednesday at noon. And do that every single day, 7 days a week, no vacations. Of course, we're criticizing the Parliament in the green zone for talking about a vacation, but of course our people took their vacations while people are dying. So now you have a situation where everybody is discomforted in the Congress, and they're voting every single day on cloture. They'll carry it in about 20 days. It goes to the President, he vetoes it, comes back. Now we start the same process again. At noon, every single day, the Pelosi puts up the deal for a vote. That's a half hour. That's all that takes. Same thing in the Senate. And they keep doing this every single day. That gives the American people time to focus on who's voting which way and then deal with them at home. And the peace community can now use their troops to deal with them at home. Well, you'll see two alternatives. One is that they will wither by the end of August. First off, they're used to taking all August off, and it'll be pleasant to have them all here all August, working every day. And it's only a half hour for each of these votes. Now, they can do a lot of work for the people on the rest of the day, but I'll guarantee you that towards the last week of August, they'll be turning before your very eyes, and you'll have overridden the President's veto. That means that now the law is to get out. You got 120 days. Not abating the law is a felony, and that would put in motion an entire impeachment process on the prima facie case.
So how realistic is this?
How realistic? I guarantee it works. I guarantee it works. Stop and think. You vote every single day. Just listen, read the papers. Read the papers about this Republican is twisting there, this one is jumping around. Here, I'll give you a vote. It was interesting. On the first vote you had in the House, the Republicans thought they would lose 56 Republicans. What happened? They lost only 17. Well, something happened on the way to the vote. What happened on the way to the vote is that Congressman Murtha was talking about playing chief executive. That gave them a constitutional cover of saying that the Constitution is very clear. The president is the one that is that is the commander-in-chief, not any member of Congress. And the Congress cannot run a war. They can stop a war, they can start a war. And so, answer your question, how realistic is this going to happen? I'll tell you, I know politicians, and when it comes to political survival, they will change their vote. And they will make the speeches necessary to change their vote so they look good. And so you'll just watch them, and what harm is there in doing it? But what you're going to do is you're going to cause a lot of discomfort, and that's what needs to happen.
So your plan, summarize it. You said bring the troops home by Christmas. That's your plan?
What happens if you were to start this, let's say within the next couple of weeks, it's done by Labor Day, and you got 120 days to get out by law, that means everybody's home by Christmas. That's what that means, by law.
And if the president doesn't obey this, he can be fined money.
Well, now you see, he's disobeyed a lot of things, his signing statements, and there's a lot if people really wanted to go at him. But if the president doesn't obey a law like this, where the American people have weighed in, mind you, the ingredient to this is that the American people now have enough time to watch the Congress on one single act. What happens in Congress, the normal vote to override, have vote to override, didn't get it, end of story, go on, do another part of the business. This is a vote to override every single day at noon. The media would just go at this because you can see the drama. Remember the drumbeat with respect to our hostages of every day counting the days of our hostages in Iran? And that's the drumbeat you'll get with this, is how many senators are now voting on override. Next day, how many? And that's where the people weigh in.
Okay, I think we